Like right now in my life, it's like I go to the gym, I try and have a great relationship with my wife, and I watch football. Those are
the big
that's
three.
all that I have.
The big three.
That's all that I have in life. Football to me, it's not about winning or losing. That's not why I watch the game. I don't care who wins the Super Bowl at the end of the year. I don't care all this kind of stuff like that. I watch football because it's art.
We do care who wins the Super Bowl. I would like the Chargers to win the Super Bowl. I know that Zach's, a Jets fan, so he doesn't ever think it's possible.
He has long abandoned the idea that wins and losses matter in any way.
When you're a Jets fan long enough, you just get abstract about football.
Yeah, you have to. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to No Timeouts, a football show coming at you from the Score Studio. My name is Jonah Birenbaum. That is Tyler MacKillop. That is Dan Wilkins. That is Zak McDonald. You know them. You love them. Gentlemen, we've officially entered the proverbial back nine of the 2025 season, and Week 10 was a busy and fascinating one. The trade deadline notwithstanding, we saw the Buffalo Bills get shellacked by the Miami Dolphins, continuing their uneven season. We saw the newly rebuilding Jets get a win in spite of themselves, which even against the Cleveland Browns is still pretty wild. We saw the NFC West consolidate its power even more. We saw another head coach bite the dust in Brian Daboll, formerly of the New York Football Giants. Wilk, what stood out to you most this week?
I'd love to start with the New England Patriots because I've heard a lot of doubts about this team. And I think that starts with our boy T over here just leading the charge about how they're a product of a soft schedule. I personally would say that taking down the Bucs on the road qualifies as a quality win. Now, for anyone who's intent on remaining a hater, like I assume T probably is, you might want to point out the fact that the Patriots did rely a little too much on the big play in this one. I think it's a fair point. A 32.2% offensive success rate is not exactly the most sustainable recipe for success, I guess. But for me, it was the guys who made the big plays that were really exciting looking forward. After a really slow start to his rookie season, Travion Henderson getting involved with 2 long touchdown runs was huge. Obviously, Ramondre Stevenson is going to have a big role when he comes back from injury, but I think that this monster performance could be the catalyst for the Patriots finding more ways to get Travion Henderson involved and really putting him in position to do what he does best. And man, just get him in space and he can go. And then there's Kyle Williams as well. I was a big fan of him coming into this year's draft. He had been kind of buried on the depth chart up until this point, but he got his chance with Kayshon Boutte out with injury this week, and you could really see that game-breaking speed on his 72-yard touchdown. So
that pass was absolute art from Drake May. He threw it perfectly to get him in stride for the touchdown.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me is like when you look at everything this offense has done so far this year, Drake May is an MVP candidate, obviously. Josh McDaniels has done some incredible work in his first year back in New England. And then you factor for what could be expanded roles for 2 rookies who I personally see as the most explosive playmakers on this entire roster. I think there's a real path for this offense to find yet another gear down the stretch. You pair that with a Mike Vrabel defense, which has quietly been a top 7 unit by EPA per play. And this is a real team, man. I think when they go and beat the Bills for a second time at the beginning of December, which as things are currently tracking is going to happen, all those questions about strength of schedule are going to go out the window. I very much believe in them. I think they're for real.
It's crazy to think that this offense could have another gear because they're averaging 5.9 yards per play, which is the 5th best in the NFL. And look, maybe this is an overstatement. Maybe I'm overreacting. Is Drake May Tom Bradying this wide receiver core to a certain extent? I mean, he has a 32-year-old Stephon Diggs. He's got rookies. He's got Kayshon Boutte. He's got Williams. Like, it's not on paper the most gifted wide receiver core in the league. And look at what that passing game is doing. This team could be 11-2 by the time they hit their bye.
Yes, I mean that's what the point I think I was making at some point in the last few weeks was that heading into this season, my reservation with the Patriots was I love Drake May, but I'm not sure that they had done enough to build up the roster around him and actually put them in a position to compete as a playoff team. And I kind of still do feel that way. I think the roster does need to be better, but man, the coaching staff has just done such a good job of maximizing it. And to your point, Drake May has taken that step he's been like a top 5 quarterback this year. I mean, there's no denying that at this point. So they're a lot of fun to watch. And I think that it's cool that they're a more likable version of the Patriots team.
Sure.
And, much of that is because people were like jealous. And of course you had the cheating scandals back then, and that was a factor too. But this is now a new era of the Patriots actually being likable, and I think it's a lot of fun to watch.
I don't think they're very likable.
Yeah, well,
but it's not
You're
even
disqualified from this conversation.
It's not even the Jets thing. It's just like we got to go through this again. We got to go because the Patriots, when they were underdogs, were likable in the Tom Brady era as well. And then you just remember that all of their fans are like from Boston, and they have all of this championship pedigree, and they start getting super annoying. That's
most
around the corner.
fan bases are annoying, to be fair enough. But
fair enough.
Boston in particular. Now, sorry. On the other side of the spectrum of quarterback play, T, I know you got some thoughts about Bo Nix.
Yeah, we're well removed from that Thursday nighter that, again, I haven't mentioned this on the show, but I keep mentioning it to my friends. I think I would have rather watched, I don't know if it was 3-4 years ago. I don't know if you guys remember the infamous Colts Broncos game, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson. That was one of the worst games you've ever seen. This was worse. This was tougher.
You would have rather watched that. How about me?
But man, Bo Nix, we wonder why this Broncos offense and their run game hasn't really gotten going to be an explosive game when they have such a great offensive line. It's because Bo Nix does little to threaten opponents in the passing game. Like, this team is pushing the ball downfield at a ridiculous rate. Bo Nix has the most deep ball pass attempts in the entire league. He's completing less than 32% of them right now. We're not hitting on the big plays. And you watch the game on Thursday, and it's just, I know this is an offense that wants to utilize Bo Nix's mobility to be able to escape sacks, get outside the pocket and throw on the run and make plays. But he's just rolling out for the sake of rolling out when he's got the best protection in the entire NFL. This team is sorely missing a passing game to help their running game open things up. And Bo is just been extremely frustrating, the fact that if he sees any pressure, his internal clock is just escape. And this team is not pushing the ball downfield effectively. And when they are making plays against any type of pressure, it's in shorter areas of the field. It's not any big plays. And I definitely think this offense and this team is built so well. We've constructed this roster that's perfect for having a rookie quarterback a quarterback on his first contract, and they're not taking advantage of it right now. And we all know that they're married to Bo Nix for the foreseeable future, but right now he's significantly holding this team back.
You mentioned like how he's holding the team back. He's second in the NFL right now in passing attempts, and he's only taken 10 sacks on the entire year. Justin Herbert is first. He's taken 33 sacks, which obviously is a bit of an outlier. But even, I think the next guy after him is 16 sacks. Bo Nix is the 33rd most sacked quarterback in the NFL, and all they do is throw the ball.
The thing is like...
And a great defense.
Opponents can kind of, like, circle in on the run game, send numbers, stack the box, and you're looking at Bo as like... When opponents blitz, like, there's just no ability to make them pay for not having numbers in coverage. It's just not happening. And it's very hard to build an offense out where you can't threaten opponents down the field to be able to do what Sean Payton's offenses typically do best. It's live in those shorter areas, generate yards after the catch, and try to be jumped up down the middle of the run game. But Bo's not helping them to be able to put that picture-perfect offense together.
It's very strange to say, but I think the Broncos are 8-2.
Yeah.
And when I did the power rankings this week, I believe I had them outside my top 10 because I can't believe in your team when your offense looks like that, when you have nothing to offer in the passing game, and the run game, to your point, I think is suffering as a result. The passing game is not a threat at all. Of course they're going to be in the playoffs. They might win the AFC West at this point because the Chiefs have been scuffling a little bit. But man, I have no expectations for them once they get there because you need to be able to do something from the quarterback position, and I have not seen that from Bo Nix yet.
Just by virtue of making us sit through that Thursday nighter, they should be barred from the top 10 for at least the next couple weeks, I would say.
Listen,
to your point, Bo Nix he has the fourth highest bad throw rate in the NFL. The guys behind him, we're looking at Cam Ward, Michael Penix Jr., and Carson Wentz.
Oof.
Bad. Zach, what was your big takeaway from this past week?
Well, you brought up the Bills' loss to the Dolphins earlier, and I just think we don't need to panic about the Bills. We don't need to extrapolate this loss into some huge thing. There are some issues with the Bills for sure. Their offense is still really good. They're top 10 in basically every meaningful category, 6th in points per game, 2nd in yards per game, 7th in points per play. They're incredible at running the ball, which I think really plays well, especially for them playing in Buffalo every week. They're still super outdoors there at Highmark Stadium. Their pass defense is pretty good. Their run defense is super, super, super bad. A lot of people thought that they needed to target these receivers at the trade deadline. which you can agree with sort of in a sense, but I think that Josh Allen is going to make up for a lot of deficiencies that you have with your receivers, especially when it becomes meaningful playoff games and you're going for it on fourth down more often. Their run defense in the 2 games where they got surprisingly blown out, which was the Dolphins game and the Falcons game earlier in this year, Bijan Robinson and Devin Achane had over 174 yards rushing against them, averaging like 8 yards per carry. Yeah. That is the major flaw of this team. If they end up running into a team like the Colts in the playoffs, that's going to be a major problem for them. Jonathan Taylor is going to absolutely tear them apart. They build the team to kind of beat the Chiefs with a lot of pass rushers, and they just don't have the beef on the defensive line to stop these big guys. But ultimately, you have to have some faith in Sean McDermott to try and figure something out. Like, there must be somebody somewhere that you can get to kind of fill these gaps. And we want to take every week individually and extrapolate them out to be like the whole season. This Dolphins loss is an outlier. Last week they beat the Chiefs. We're all high on them. I still think this is a team that you're going to see playing an extremely meaningful divisional round or AFC championship game.
So I can't really argue with the fact that the Bills are probably going to be in it at the end, because they always are, and they just have the cyborg quarterback to get that done. But I think that the one thing I can say to your overall point about maybe this was just one game is maybe the Chiefs game was just one game, because the rest of the season is before that, wins or losses. I know that the record has been fine. We saw all those issues really come up and cause some problems, right? The run defense and not having that top receiver. And to your point, they don't address either of those at the deadline. I know they had been connected to Quinnen Williams and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
I doubt that they were trying to get both. It was probably one or the other. But
in divisional, which is weird, trying to make these individual trades that are not going to happen.
I have a problem with teams like that who clearly know they have a need. They go out, they're aggressively going after it, and then when those deals don't work out, they're like, we tried. It's like, no, you were trying for a reason. Like, you have these needs to address, and you didn't do anything. I don't know. I'm pretty concerned about this team.
It feels to me like my read on it, and maybe this is too reactionary. I don't know. Losing 3 of their last 5, maybe it isn't. Kind of feels like they've jumped the shark a little bit. Like last year, the last few years, they were better than they are right now. And even though maybe they've optimized from a roster construction perspective to beat the Chiefs, maybe that's not their foremost adversary anymore. I don't know. It's just so hard to have faith in Buffalo when things go poorly.
Well, I think we're all 3 of you have outlined what this is going to be about for Buffalo. It's going to be significantly matchup dependent in the postseason. Like, who do you play?
Yeah.
And if you play the right teams, the Bills could still potentially at least accomplish their goals of maybe playing for a Super Bowl, but it needs to be perfect for that to happen.
The stars really need to
align.
Well, I will
say, I think this is a ways off, but if we were to say that the Patriots win the AFC East, I think the Bills are probably going to be the number 1 wild card.
Yeah.
The bottom division winner at this point is probably going to be the Ravens, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't like that matchup for the Bills.
The Bills did beat the Ravens in week 1, which is one of their big wins. Yeah. And that's when the Ravens, before they had they still had some injuries, I think, in that game. But I just think it's like, it's still like you're talking to seeing people from Buffalo just acting like, oh, this whole thing is a failure, everything is a failure. It's like, let's still wait. Like, I still think the season is going to come down to Josh Allen have a huge opportunity to win a huge game, and I think anytime you're in that situation, you like your odds more than you don't like them.
Wilk, what do you got?
I think the Steelers are cooked. I really wanted to believe that they could compete with Aaron Rodgers, and it's not like there haven't been some moments over the course of the season where you could look at it and say, hey, he's got a little more juice than I thought, but it's pretty clear that he's no longer the type of guy who can single-handedly elevate an entire offense. And the problem is that's what the Steelers are asking from him at this point. And I honestly just cannot get past their decision to do nothing at the trade deadline. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense to me. The entire idea of going all in on Rodgers was to be competitive this year. This was it. Where is that energy when the entire football world can see that you desperately need another receiver opposite DK Metcalf for this offense to be even remotely competitive down the stretch and into the playoffs? I just don't get it, man. It's so frustrating to me because I think that this team, they didn't have to do this, right? I mean, like, you go back to the draft, I believe Aaron Rodgers' decision was going right up until and through draft weekend, right? He still hadn't signed.
Yep.
So they could have said, you know what, forget this. We're just actually going to address our future, draft a quarterback in the first round, which they had an opportunity to do, and they declined to do so. Yeah. all for this, I guess. And honestly, you guys know that I wasn't a big Jackson Dart guy in the draft, but all the excitement that he's brought to New York, it just makes this decision seem even worse in hindsight.
Yes or no? Does Mike Tomlin's streak of consecutive non-losing seasons end in 2025?
I'm gonna say no, just because of history. Like, I mean, I feel like they're probably going to get in the playoffs just because that's just what they do, and it's just like an inexplicable magic from Mike Tomlin. But like, that's the problem is I don't expect anything different once they get there. For all I can see so far, this is the exact same team it's been for the last 8 years, even with Aaron Rodgers there.
But then, Wilkie, is it time to have a conversation about whether Mike Tomlin, obviously he's a very good head coach, we can agree on that. Is his time in Pittsburgh expired now at this point?
I wouldn't be surprised if they made a change, just because I guess there had been some talk about it over the last few years. I think a couple years ago there was talk about whether a team might like trade for him or something. I don't know. Like, I would lean toward not doing it just because his track record is so good, and if you can just get a quarterback in there, you probably wouldn't be having these debates. But the reality is that they had an opportunity to at least take a swing on a guy this year, and they declined to do so for Aaron Rodgers, which, again, I was kind of okay with at the time, but that was based on the idea that you were absolutely going all in to do everything you could, and then at the halfway point of the season, they just didn't. So I don't know.
The puzzling thing, too, is the defense is kind of turning a corner, too. So it would have been good timing to be able to invest in the offense to potentially be more of a threat.
It's like they saw that and were like, okay, we'll be fine. We can just win.
Which is what they've done for the last how many years,
like,
though.
All right, man.
T, do you have another takeaway from this past week?
Yeah, we'll go from negative to a positive. I think the Rams are the most complete team in the NFL right now. Like, when you talk about offense and defense, you start on the offensive side. I don't think there's a duo that complements each other better than Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. We all know Matthew Stafford can make every throw on the football field. I think both Kyron Williams and Blake Corum are a great complementary duo that are starting to hit their stride. And then defensively, like, man, they do such a good job with the way that they've obviously invested in the draft and the edge defenders they have now, and being able to rush the passer. But then you look at the run defense. Poona Ford's been one of the most undervalued additions of the entire offseason from any team, because this is a team that just is light box like a ton. They just have 4 men they have seven or less in the box just pretty much all the time, like over 80% of plays. They're rushing the passer with 4 or less pretty much exclusively. Like, they don't need to stack the box or have numbers up the middle to be able to, A, stop the run, because they've been stopping the run at one of the best rates in the entire league right now. And then the question is, like, do they have a number one corner? And most people would argue not. Darius Williams has played really well for them. The secondary doesn't really need that number one corner because they have such an advantage of playing a ton of nickel and dime and playing a ton of zone coverage. They don't need to have that number one guy because they usually have the numbers advantage in coverage because they're so good up front. Everything about this team is elite. There's really not a lot of holes, if any. I can't poke any hole in this team from offense or defense, and they're very much deserving of being the Super Bowl favorite because there is no team built as well as they are right now.
And that's while playing the 8th hardest schedule in the NFL to date, according to Pro Football Reference. It's unbelievable. Go ahead, Zach.
They run 40% of their plays in 13 personnel with 3 tight ends, which is absolutely insane. They drafted a tight end this year. Sean McVay is consistently ahead of the game. Like, you talk about teams like the Bills that have focused on let's have faster pass rushers who are able to influence the pass in that way. The Rams just go the opposite way and said, we're going to be able to block the hell out of everybody. We're going to let Kyron Williams and Blake Corum go crazy. It's really awesome to watch him innovate.
Monday Night Football. I know you had some thoughts.
Just a quick one here. Just a quick question for the fellas. You know, I'm always wanting to know what T-Mac and Wilkie think. I said, are the Packers pretenders? That may be a little sensationalist of a headline, but it's like if you have the sort of Rams, Eagles, like these Colts teams, Seahawks teams,
the entire NFC that isn't the Packers that's in the postseason right now.
Literally, Lions, is it like like how far away are the Packers from that group of teams?
I mean, I honestly think the Tucker Kraft's injury basically to me makes them pretenders because they just do not have much that can threaten you in the pass game, especially when it comes to yards after the catch. Like, Christian Watson has come back and actually been probably their most viable weapon. Mm-hmm. Romeo Doubs, I don't think anyone really sees as a high-level talent. Maybe Jaden Reed comes back and helps them a fair bit as that slot option, losing Kraft, but man, the pass game is lacking, and it's something that they don't have. They're not going to find some answer later on in the season for, because Matthew Golden's done absolutely nothing for them throughout the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, they need a second half breakout from him. Like you said, they need Jaden Reed to come back. Definitely a little concerned with the play calling of late after after a couple of years of being pretty close to putting Matt LaFleur in that like Sean McVay tier, and I'm like, yeah, maybe not.
Josh Jacobs doesn't have the juice that he once had either.
I mean,
I still
love Jacobs. I still love Jordan Love as a guy to like be
Wilkie
the leader
of
a high-powered offense, but man, they just do not have it so far. The defense has been good enough where I'm not ready to just be fully out on them, because I think that like at some point down the stretch the offense could click, but like it's got to happen soon, man. Like this has been really disappointing over the last few weeks.
Yeah,
the defense will give them a chance to win any game. The problem is seeing them run for whatever it might be 3-4 games to a Super Bowl with this group of skill position players. Just I don't see how that's possible.
That's the thing. You hold the Eagles to 10 points, you expect to win. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Tough times in Green Bay right now. Great stuff, gentlemen. Time for a little game of Would You Rather. There is no specific theme today. This is going to be a wide-ranging game of Would You Rather, and in honor of the New York Giants firing head coach Brian Daboll 10 games into this season instead of firing him this past offseason after a 3-14 2024 campaign and with a rookie quarterback coming in. Wilk, let me ask you first. Would you rather fire a coach too early or too late?
I mean, look, I'm a patient guy. Usually when fans are screaming for coaches to be fired, I'm one to say, let's chill out and just see what happens here. But when the Giants were considering doing this last offseason based on all reporting, we had 3 years of evidence to suggest that Brian Daboll probably wasn't that guy. I believe they made the playoffs in his first year, and then they got progressively worse in the 2 years that followed.
This guy had Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley on his team. Like, you would love to. You'd kill to have those two guys on your team now.
It's just the way I see it is that if you are in a position to draft a young quarterback, you better be convicted that the head coach you have in place is going to be there for multiple years, if not long term, because you have so much to gain by putting your young quarterback in a position where he has continuity right out of the gate. And you have so much to lose by having him in a position where he's potentially with a lame duck coach who is going to get fired halfway through his rookie season. The Giants have now made the mistake. The Titans did it this year earlier with Cam Ward firing Brian Callahan halfway through the year. And it's something that the Bears messed up last year when they ended up having to fire Matt Eberflus halfway through when he should have never made it into that season. So to me, it just doesn't make sense. If you're at all up in the air about your coach's future and you're about to draft a quarterback, just move on. Move on. You're probably not going to regret it, but there's a good chance that you're going to regret bringing him back and having to have your young quarterback learn multiple new offenses and have to deal with that kind of turmoil that early in his career.
So I agree with the sentiment, but like we have to give it context in the situation of like the Brian Daboll-Jackson Dart marriage makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I don't really understand why they're moving on from him. Yes, you've blown some pretty terrible leads in the last few weeks, and that's not a good look for you as a head coach that's on a team that's 2-7. But like the duo of Brian Daboll and Jackson Dart, in my opinion, was working as well as I've seen it work so far this year in this particular game. I thought Jackson Dart played extremely well in terms of obviously that marriage between his ability to run with, I thought in a game here, he threw the ball as well as he has all year. I don't really get it. Like, what's out there? Like, did you guys see what I think it was somebody dropped like a couple of their coaching options, and Antonio Pierce is apparently of interest.
I mean, I think those
is that real?
I think those early reports are a lot of like agents getting names out there and being like, "Hey, my guy's in the hiring cycle."
But like that's just Joe Judge 2.0 is what that was.
No, but I see your point, but my thing is that when you have Daboll come in, it's very clear from the jump that he felt like he was coaching for his job. He wasn't coaching for the future of this team. From day one, he was coaching for his job. There is no other explanation for him running into the medical tent when Jackson Dart is getting checked for a concussion. And that kind of extends to the overall like approach of this offense. Like if I have Dart playing the way that he has over the first couple months of the season, taking a million hits, if I'm a coach that's got an eye on the future of this team, I'm saying, we're not doing that anymore. We're not getting you hurt. And to me, that's where the coaching staff has kind of fallen short here. And I think, I don't really, when I'm looking at a head coach, I'm not expecting that to happen. But I think that probably had to be a factor here in Daboll just kind of throwing Dart out there and getting hurt as many times as he has.
This is an honest question. Has there ever been an instance of a team firing a coach too early and coming to regret it?
That's kind of my point. I
Bill
don't
Belichick,
really...
Bill Belichick, Cleveland Browns.
Okay, touche.
More often than not, if you are considering it, there's a reason you're considering it, and then you can just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank.
Speaking
Frank
of
Reich
moving
was a
on,
good decision.
T, would you rather
I loved Frank Reich.
the Colts or the Patriots play in the AFC Championship game, or the Seahawks or Bears play in the NFC Championship game? And I take it you're trying to suss out which 2025 team can be the 2024 Washington Commanders, who made it all the way to the conference championship coming off a 4-win season.
Yeah, so we were talking about this a bunch, and I was trying to bite my tongue because I was looking forward to talking about this. I think if I had to choose, I'd probably have to taking the shot and buying the stock on the Colts or Patriots, solely because the AFC seems so vulnerable right now.
Yeah.
Like if I power rank these 4 teams, it'd be Seahawks 1, Colts 2, Patriots 3, and Bears 4 in terms of who I think is the best all-around team.
Yeah.
But the deal is like when you look at the Patriots and Colts, they do 2 things really well. Both of them actually are great stopping the run. The Patriots being out of this world good stopping the run. And then obviously the Colts have Jonathan Taylor. I look at the Bills, and they're just extremely susceptible to a Jonathan Taylor, like you mentioned. And I think the Patriots are a terrible matchup because the Patriots have been elite stopping the run. And then you look at from the other side of things with from like a Broncos, Chargers, who else am I missing, that are just kind of significantly flawed, and we know kind of the issues that they have. There's so many teams in the AFC that have these issues that are glaring that they don't have answers for later in the season, that I think these 2 teams could particularly take advantage of. In the NFC, it's like, if you're the Seahawks and you don't win the division, your run to get to an NFC Championship game could be
brutal.
The Packers and the Lions, or Lions and Packers, whatever order that is. The path to get there is just so much more difficult, despite Seattle being, I think, the best and most complete team of the group. But the Colts and Patriots are just, they could be bad matchups, and it's, again, all about the path to get there, really.
There's a lot of teams in the NFC that would be the best team in the AFC right now. Like the Rams, the Lions would have an argument, the Eagles would have an argument, the Seahawks would have an argument. The NFC is, and the Packers, like you said, maybe not 3 or 4 games in a row, but they still have a dominant defense. The NFC is brutal this year.
Here's one for you, Zachy.
All right.
Would you rather attend a very compelling minus 20 degrees snow game, snow's coming down, or would you rather attend Saints Panthers?
But I'm in North Carolina.
You're in North Carolina.
New
The weather's
Orleans.
balmy. It's beautiful, but you're watching the Saints and the Panthers.
I'm having some kind of like a cocktail in like some sort of a lounge scenario.
You got a dark and stormy
Do
going.
you need premium seats to make the Saints?
No, the seats are the same.
The seats are the same. Seats are the same.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like it's minus 20.
All right.
It's snowing in Buffalo, but they're playing the Chiefs for the division versus.
Oh.
Well, okay.
So-
maybe I'm overstating
or
it.
like the
game context.
like the Browns, like the Jameis Winston game last year, where Jameis Winston went crazy in the snow. Remember that game?
Yeah, of course.
It was
I think
incredible.
It was on like Thursday night or something. Anyways,
Here's the thing. Here's what I'll say. I do have an answer for this. Jonah, for me, football, I got like right now in my life, it's like I go to the gym, I try and have a great relationship with my wife, and I watch football. That's all that I have.
The big 3.
That's all that I have in life. And I love football with such an intense passion I can barely put it into words. But football to me, it's not about winning or losing. That's not why I watch the game. I don't care who wins the Super Bowl at the end of the year. I don't care all this kind of stuff like that. I watch football because it's art. Because it's beautiful. It's like music. It's like poetry. It stands out to me as one of the most fantastic plays that we have in modern society. So please, give me the snow game. Let me see the canvas be painted by the blood on the white snow, the battle between all of these titans. That's what I want to see. I want the snow game. You can take your Saints and Panthers games and your Mai Tais and shove them.
Yeah,
Let it be known that the No Timeouts show here does not. We do care who wins the Super Bowl. I would like the Chargers to win the Super Bowl. I know that Zach's, a Jets fan, so he doesn't ever think it's possible.
He has long abandoned the idea that wins and losses matter in any way.
When you're a Jets fan long enough, you just get abstract about football.
Yeah, you have to. It's a coping mechanism. It has to be done. I think that is the correct answer. But then again, I've also sat through like minus 20 and snowing in Buffalo. Mind you, it wasn't a compelling game. This was like well before they were good, and they were getting like shellacked by the Patriots. And I was like, can we leave in the third? Like this is too much. Cheap ticket. Different circumstances, but I think you had the right answer. Wilk, would you rather have at quarterback long-term Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck?
Can I say I don't know? So I was among those who thought that Spencer Rattler didn't necessarily deserve to get benched. I thought he was doing some good things, but I also understood that this was probably something the Saints needed to do just to get an extended look at Tyler Shuck before next year's draft. And I really like Shuck coming out of Louisville this past year. I know he was kind of a polarizing prospect. It probably didn't help that he's like 26 years old or whatever. But I was really happy to see him play the way he did in that win over the Panthers this week. And it's really early, obviously, but he's got easy arm talent. He's a much better athlete than you'd think. And he's got some really nice moments managing the pocket. If I had to pick, I'd probably say Shuck, and we can say that the tiebreaker is that he's got that prototypical size. But I honestly do think that in the right environment, which I believe that Kellen Moore may be in the process of building in New Orleans, both of these guys actually do have like low to mid-level starter upside. So I think it's a pretty cool development for the Saints, given that it's been looking pretty bleak for a while now.
They're marching in, baby. Sticking on the subject of, maybe that's an overstatement, sticking on the subject of quarterbacks. T, would you rather have that quarterback long-term, Jackson Dart or Bryce Young?
I think it has to be Jackson Dart. The sample size with Bryce Young is getting to be quite significant. You know that he has the worst yards per attempt of all time, 5.7 yards per attempt, worst of all time amongst passers with at least 1,000 pass attempts.
Yikes. Bryce
Young, when I watch the game, what my impression is, this is a guy who can basically only get what's given to him, cannot create windows or throw into difficult ones.
It's a great way to put it.
And when I look at Jackson Dart, I saw a lot of, again, the Bears are a matchup that can be beneficial for a lot of quarterbacks, but I saw a lot of plays in contested windows and creating windows that I honestly surprised me. I thought Dart looked really, really good. And then there's the run game aspect of things, because Dart I really would have loved to evaluate him this season, getting a full year with Cam Scadaboo, getting him Malik Neighbors to throw the ball to. Like, we're talking about Wan'Dale Robinson, Theo Johnson, and Devin Singletary. Like, this is a pretty poor cast of characters working with him, but the way he opens up this offense and with his legs is super impressive. Like, as soon as Russell Wilson came into the game, I think we all knew what was coming, because this team not having that 12-man run or that 11-man run game to work on, especially when they were in the red zone, and Russell Wilson, obviously they kicked, was that them kicking like a 19-yarder, right?
Yeah.
And
they kicked a field goal from the 1-yard line.
Yeah, and then they took the penalty and still didn't want to go for it because they don't have their best weapon in the red zone. So I'm excited about Dart. I know I've been pretty tame, if not like completely hesitant to say that Jackson Dart could be the guy, but I was really encouraged on what I saw this past week, and I think Bryce Young, like, I know it's tough for the Panthers to be able to quit the Bryce Young experiment, because, I mean, we go back and we look at that trade, Caleb Williams, Luther Burden, like a laundry list of things they ended up giving up to get him, but it's time to call it quits. I don't see a future for Bryce Young in this league.
I think that I would be open to seeing what Bryce Young looks like in a new environment.
Yeah.
Just like to see if he can follow the same path that these former first-round busts have. Just because, like, last year, that second half, it really looked like the light came on where he was tapping into that, like, playmaker gene that he had at Bama. And I don't know, maybe a new environment with a better supporting cast could help that. Obviously, the Panthers supporting cast has been, it looks fine on paper. You finally have the number one receiver. You've got a good run game. So it's tough to have too many complaints. But, yeah, I do wonder if maybe a different offense more suited to his capabilities, or even just a new environment that can reestablish some level of confidence might give him a chance. But, yeah, it has not been good.
Go get his tires swapped out and oil changed at the Kyle Shanahan mechanic shop.
Jaw-dropping, sad Bryce Young stat.
Yeah,
I
really
have for
unfortunate.
You, okay? This season, on passes of 10-plus yards outside the hashes, so like those tougher throws to make, his completion percentage is 26%.
Oh, my goodness. Yikes.
It's bad.
That is rough. Speaking of rough, Zach, would you rather get stiff-armed by Derrick Henry once a month or have a runny nose forever?
Oh, Jonah, that is terrible. I have a question. Is this like, do I have to go somewhere to get stiff-armed by Derrick
No,
Henry?
it can
or
be
is it
like
just like I'm brushing my foot,
convenient.
I turn
Yeah.
around the corner and bam, it just like hits me out of nowhere?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it comes out of nowhere. And critically, there's a distinction between a truck stick and a stiff arm, right? Like with a truck stick, he's lowering his shoulder, he's really flattening you. A stiff arm, he's more like, you know,
in the
shoving
chest?
you.
In the face
Usually
sometimes.
the stiff arm.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I won't get too specific with the location of the stiff arm, but
Okay.
you get stiff armed
Do I
once
get
a month.
pads?
Yeah, you can wear pads.
Oh.
Yeah, you get
All
stiff
right.
arm once a month by Derrick Henry, or you have a runny nose forever. There's no relief. You're trying to get to sleep, bam, your nose is running. You're in a meeting, you're on camera, bam, your nose is running.
There's nothing worse in the world than having a runny nose. Like I'm not
Says the guy who's never been stiff-armed by Derrick Henry.
There's just like discarded NFL players throughout history right now that are like, please take the runny nose. Yeah. Imagine I'm like 72 and I still have to like get stiff-armed by Derrick Henry once a month.
He'll age too, though. That's the thing. In this hypothetical,
okay.
he's also
All right,
aging.
all right. I'll take the stiff arm.
Yeah, runny nose in
good
mid-July
idea.
would be
Yeah.
that'd be tough.
Ugh.
Yeah, there's no relief.
Yeah, I can't do it.
All right. Great stuff. Zach, you're up.
All right.
Run a 2-minute drill for us.
Well, Jonah was cooking with the questions. He got me inspired, so I'm going to run a 2-minute drill. This time we're going to do it with Wilkie. We've done a couple with T-Mac, so now we get it Wilkie in the question. I'm going to start the timer, and as soon as I start, I'm going to ask the first question. You just quick, you know what I mean? You know, we're just going to roll through it. All right, timer started. Wilkie, who's the best team in the NFL right now?
The Rams.
Wilkie, who is your QB1 in next year's draft? Just right now. You don't have to be married to it.
Based on who I think is going to come out, Ty
Who will be the
Simpson.
best? Ty Simpson. Okay, love Ty Simpson. If you ran the Vikings and were offered Sam Darnold for J.J. McCarthy straight up right now, would you take that?
Yes.
Yes. If you're the 49ers, would you rather have Brock Purdy in his current contract or Mac Jones long-term for half the money?
Only because of the money, I'm taking Mac Jones.
Okay. It's 4th and goal on the 1. You, Wilkie, are in the Jalen Hurts role on the tush push. If you get a TD, that's $100,000 stuffed right in your pocket. If you get stuffed and you don't get the touchdown, for 5 years, you can't watch the NFL and are forced to exclusively cover Canadian football during that time for the score. Are you
Pass.
taking the
Pass.
snap? No
Pass.
snap. No snap.
No.
Wow.
What's the number? What number do you need? Money. How much money do you need to go for it?
Man,
$1 million?
no.
There's not enough money in the world to make him forego watching the NFL and to force him to cover the CFL.
Yeah. Also, I just know I would not score.
Okay, he's not scoring. Okay, good. Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay?
McVay.
Okay. The Bengals are offered 4 first-round picks for Joe Burrow in the offseason. Would you make that trade?
If I'm who?
They're just like middle fourth-round picks.
No, if I'm the Bengals.
They're the Bengals.
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't do that. Neutral team, redraft right now, Jackson Dart or Cam Ward. Who do you take?
Cam Ward.
Every player on the Chiefs other than Patrick Mahomes has to play the opposite side of the ball. Would Kansas City still beat Alabama's football team?
What? Can you?
The defense plays offense. The offense plays defense.
Except for Patrick Mahomes.
This is your last question.
No, they would not beat Alabama.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
Those were great. There were so many.
That's why
bangers.
he's That's why he runs the 2-minute drill, okay?
I think, right? Yeah,
I think the Chiefs would win.
Pros
I think they would.
pros would beat Bama even if they're playing out of position. Even if they're
got-
playing on the other side of the field.
Creed
No,
Humphrey.
I mean-
Creed Humphrey.
and
like
you have Patrick
nose
Mahomes.
tackle.
You still have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like we're
Yeah.
talking about defensive linemen pass protecting, like, or just protecting in any form against.
Yeah, like his
That's
natural
tough.
defensive
his pass
players.
protection is like Chris Jones is playing center.
Yeah.
Like no, obviously Mahomes is the best, but no, I would have to say that Bama.
No,
wins
the
that game.
drill's over.
It's over.
Your answers are final.
And let the but that's what I said. I was
It's-
reiterating the point.
Oh,
yeah,
he
that
did
was
say
my
that.
answer.
He did say that. Yeah.
But I always push back. You know, every couple of years when there's a really bad NFL team, we have that.
Yeah, it's always the worst
someone says like, "Oh,
conversation. Yeah.
this team would lose to Bama." Like, no, they
No.
would not. But if they're all playing different positions, I think yes, then
All right.
maybe.
Zachy.
Oh my gosh,
You're still
we're back
running the show,
again.
pal.
Wow, holy. Okay, great. I definitely have all of these pulled up. So
He's a pros pro, folks.
we're about to go into the subreddit meltdown. The subreddit meltdown. We're just past the halfway point in the season.
Yeah, we've been checking in periodically to see how the fan bases on Reddit are faring emotionally, and this feels like a kind of a natural inflection point in the season.
And
to
there
check in again.
were some big losses. This
Absolutely.
week. We
Do you
had
think there's a Jets check-in? Is there a Jets?
No,
There's
there
no
better
Jet-
not be. The moratorium's still in place.
yes, we've embargoed the Jets.
Okay.
We're not doing a Jets check-in.
Did you check in on how Broncos fans are feeling about Bo Nix?
Oh, that would have been a good one. I'll have to consult Wilkie
Maybe next week.
time. We're going to go with another team with a struggling quarterback, though. We're going to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Our first one, we got user publicfile6521. Sounds like some sort of court-ordered Reddit username. But he says, okay, to be completely honest, that was the most Jaguars way to complete the game I can imagine. The Jaguars had the big fumble at the end of the game. I don't know if you remembered that. That was the most Jaguars way to end a game that you could possibly imagine. We had a user named JWill06, and he said, is this team 7-2 or 8-1 with Mac Jones? So that's where Jaguars fans are at. They're longing for the days of Mac Jones.
Come on.
And they watched him be quarterback for their team. Why would they possibly be asking that question?
Like, that is just, we've already seen that literally not working. And then finally for the Jaguars, we had user Sheffielda, and he said, that game sucked. However, I'm down 9 pounds from mid-October since I started fasted AM cardio and an aggressive deficit. Rage from this team motivates me. So there's still some good coming from the Jaguars this season.
You know, if you're a Jaguars fan, you gotta be happy. You got you got a long-term head coach. You don't have a long-term quarterback.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't you like hitting the panic button about Trevor Lawrence?
Well, that was one of my discarded 2-minute drills questions.
No, that was you.
T-Mac.
Okay.
I'll throw it to T-Mac. Liam Cohen or Trevor Lawrence, who would you rather keep?
Oh, yeah, I think it'd be Liam Cohen. I
Right?
think we've just got such a large sample size with Trevor now, which is shocking to me. I didn't think that this would be a point I'd be at with Lawrence at all. I've always kind of believed in
they're
him.
pretty tied to him contract-wise, but
Yeah.
maybe this is an opportunity in the offseason. They bring in a little veteran competition. I seem to recall that did Liam Cohen coach Will Levis in college? Maybe that's the move.
Yeah, that'll save him.
All right, now we're going to move on. We're headed to the Falcons.
Savvy veteran, Will
Yeah,
Levis.
yeah.
We have a user ATL_fan_FDS, and he says, he says a quote came earlier from this year after the Falcons picked Michael Penix, and they said, we won't be picking this high in the draft again. He's referencing that quote. And the first comment to that is large Coke Knowles, and he says, I mean, technically he's right. We won't. The Rams will be. The Falcons are like 3-6, and they don't have their first round pick this year.
You kind of forget about that. They're 3-6 now.
They're so bad.
They're way down there.
Yeah.
I don't think
the Rams have that
should
pick.
lose his job, but I think they got to clear the entire house.
Well, speaking of Raheem Morris, a user named Texting Coach, this was one of the craziest comments I've seen on any of these threads. I can only assume by the name Texting Coach, he says, Mike McCarthy is the only answer. Career winner, absolutely needed to stabilize this organization. That is Mike McCarthy's
It
Reddit
must be,
account,
right?
right?
What'd you say his name
Offense. You want offense?
It's Texting Coach. That is Mike McCarthy. Remember there was a big story where he spent the whole offseason studying PFF and had like a premium subscription. And then he came like a year later and was like, oh, I didn't do that. That was just a lie. Now he's on Reddit trying to convince the Falcons to sign him.
I buy it.
All right. And finally, we're going to move on to the Bills. The Bills, I told you, they're panicking over there in Buffalo. That's what inspired my segment. We have got the Admiral, and he says, this was a quote from earlier in the day. He says, I swear to God, if we lose to Miami, I'm doing 30 naked laps around Highmark Stadium from 20A to Abbott to 20 to Cali. And the reply to this comment was from Andrew the Tech, and he says, we're going to need to see video proof of those laps or we'll have to ban you. Rules are rules. So if you're in the city of Buffalo, check out for that. There's going to be a man nude doing 20 miles around the Highmark Stadium. We also had Hiding with Bigfoot, and he says, my 10-year-old looked at me and said, that game was atrocious. LOL, he gets extra vocab for being right. He gets extra points for vocab and being right. So we have young Bills fans that are already being indoctrinated into Bills suffering with great vocab. And finally, we had Portugal Paul, who says, at what point do we feel bad about wasting Josh Allen's career? He's near 30 already. Bills fans, relax. Relax.
I don't know, man.
You're not wasting Josh Allen's career. It's really hard to win a Super Bowl, especially when the Chiefs do it every single year. It's fine. Everything's fine. We don't have to we're wasting Josh Allen's life yet.
Yeah, that's definitely
I
a bit
get
much.
the concern, though. I maintain.
This is the thing.
They're jumping the shark, man. I'm concerned.
But the thing is like this: when the career is all said and done, we're just going to look back and say, "Poor guy played the Patrick Mahomes era." Like it's not their team's fault. It's not the front office's fault. We built some great teams, some great rosters that could have won a Super Bowl in other years, but unfortunately, we had to play Patrick Mahomes.
Shout out to Phillip Rivers.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, Peyton Manning still won Super Bowls. Drew Brees still won Super Bowls in the Tom Brady era.
Rodgers.
His career's not over yet.
Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl. Believe it or not, under Mike McCarthy. Noted winner. Noted winner. All right, great stuff, Zachy. I feel like those responses were more measured than some we've seen in the past from the subreddits.
I think like the reality is set in for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you're these fans.
They're at
You're
acceptance
going
now.
crazy. You're just kind of like, yeah, we're not doing well this year.
This
and
is
I'm
why,
not
Zach, this is well off track, but this is why November wouldn't be in my top 3 of sports months of the year, because September and October, my 1 and 2, because there's still optimism. There's still reason to believe.
Yeah.
You know, we're
Yes.
not, by the time late November
The
comes,
Chargers aren't
there's
in
NFL
fourth yet.
games.
Yeah.
there's NFL games that just like, yeah, that's like part of the slate, but like we don't really need to watch that anymore. These teams are done. September and October, world's your oyster.
That's a great. I would love to. We need to do more on ranking the months of the year
Yeah.
as far as they relate to sports. I like that a lot.
Producers in the control room, take note of that. All right, let's look ahead to Week 11 and wrap this episode up. Gentlemen, what are you most looking forward to this coming week? Wilk.
I mean, we've been talking about them the whole episode. I'm fascinated to see how the Bills bounce back from that embarrassing effort against the Dolphins. Mentioned earlier, I think that I was probably a little too quick to bounce back or jump back on the bandwagon after they beat the Chiefs. Just everything we saw in that Dolphins game reminded me of all the issues they had beforehand. And I think T made a great point that this team was kind of built to beat the Chiefs, but there's a lot of matchups that they're not so good with. And man, if you have a tough time with the Dolphins defense, I don't know how things are going to look against the Bucs. So I think the Bucs provide like a really unique matchup for all the issues the Bills have right now. They're uniquely equipped to stop their run game and force it into Josh Allen's hands. Normally, that's not such a bad thing. And again, I would never rule out him going into Superman mode, but I don't know, man. I don't like this matchup for them. And just the more games like this we see, the more it becomes difficult for me to envision, after all the inconsistencies, them being able to string together enough performances in the playoffs to go on a run. Again, I don't doubt that they'll get there, and maybe they win a game, maybe they play the Chiefs and make it 2 wins, but I'm pretty concerned about this team, so I got to see something this week.
I will say that the Bucs, the way they're running the ball without Bucky Irving, leads me to believe that I think the Bills might be in a good spot here, because I do think Tampa Bay is needing to lean a lot more on Baker and the heroics. And quite honestly, like, the Bills defensively, like, they've always done a pretty good job, at least in the regular season, of being a really good pass defense. And the pass rush has been really good throughout the year. So I could see their defense causing some problems. But, I mean, like you said, on the offensive side for Buffalo, I think Tampa's definitely a bad matchup, because they've always been one that can stop the run pretty well.
T, what are you most looking forward to this week?
I feel like this flew under the radar, at least it did for me, but I'm fascinated with the Dan Campbell-Vic Fangio matchup, because Campbell took over play calling duties. And I think I said this to you guys off the show, but I was like, is this a spot where Dan's like, I know we'll beat the hell out of the Commanders, so give me the play calling duties, I'll get some praise, and let's get this puppy rolling. But the matchup between these two teams is so fascinating, because I was shocked to hear this. These teams haven't played since 2022. So these two teams haven't played while the Lions have been at their best, at least as a complete team. Maybe 2022 offensively they weren't too bad, but you take a team like Detroit offensively, that last week I thought we saw them be more willing to run the ball. They're running the ball a little bit more than they were during the season. I think that's a Campbell type of thing. And they did it against a Commanders team that I think stopping the run defense wise is good. And then Jamison Williams, like Dan Campbell had been talking up Jamison Williams the entire offseason, and they just had not been utilizing him in the way that I expected them to this year. But that was the most targets, receptions, and yards he's had the entire season. So that's something for them to look forward to. And the matchup being with Philly is like, this is probably the most difficult pass rush for them to face since that Packers game in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Eagles are now flush with talent. Jalen Phillips had 8 pressures in his first game with the Eagles on Monday night. They've obviously got Brandon Graham back in the mix. Nolan Smith is healthy. Like, they just have a ton of options that they can throw at you. And then you look at Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, and the way the Lions are the weakest in the offensive line is obviously on the interior. So they could cause some problems. And the thing is, though, is that they use that front and play a lot of, leave a lot of light boxes. So they haven't really been great stopping the run this year, quite frankly. Like, they like to go and play have 5 defensive backs on the field a lot, play a lot of man coverage, trust Cooper DeJean and Quinell Mitchell in coverage. So do they stack the box a little bit more to go up against the run game, or do they kind of stick to who they've been all season? If that's the case, I think Detroit could run the ball well on them. But it's a fascinating matchup in terms of the run game, and obviously what the Lions have been doing in the past game with Goff so far this season. But again, if you cause that internal pressure with Goff, it could be a recipe for success for the Eagles.
This really should have been the NFC title matchup last year.
It would have been.
Is this a preview of the 2025 NFC Championship game?
We still got the Rams. We still got the Seahawks. This NFC.
Yes or
so
no?
good.
Give me a yes or no.
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 Yeah, I don't think so because I really like the Rams. So I'm
The
gonna
most
have to say
complete
no.
team in the NFL, some have said.
Yeah, yeah.
Some have said. Zachy, what are you looking forward to?
Speaking of the Rams, how about this? The Rams and the Seahawks playing this week. That game is going to rule.
That's good eating.
And I'm most excited just to see a shootout between Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford. You'd be hard-pressed, other than Drake May, to name two quarterbacks playing better right now than Sam Darnold and Matt Stafford. The Seahawks are... You bought into them earlier in the year.
My boys, my beloved
Dragon's
Seahawks.
Den
What
or
about the
Shark's
Rams?
Tank or
You know,
whatever
I
we
think
did.
they're better. That'll decide.
Either way,
who's
I'm
the better
making
buy.
money either way.
Yeah, Seahawks are my personal favorite team to watch this year. I just think they're new, they're fresh. If they wear the throwbacks, it really amps it up a little bit. But just watching JSN, watching Sam Darnold, this is the moment we talk about like, oh, I'm in it for the beauty, the pageantry of sports. This game is going to be aesthetically pleasing, fun to watch, a great shootout. Between
I honestly
two
think
great
this might be
quarterbacks.
the two best teams in the league right now.
Yeah, and they both play. They're division rivals too.
This is going to be a shootout because the Seahawks can't really run the ball. They haven't all year, and nobody takes the runaway better than Seattle has this year. So you're going to see Stafford and Darnold, I think, throw the ball 35, 40 times in this game, if it's competitive, obviously, which I think it will be. So
That's what we want to see.
Fun.
They're going to cook. We just cooked here today on this episode of No Timeouts. Once again, thanks so much for joining us. That is Zak McDonald. That is Dan Wilkins. That's Tyler MacKillop. My name is Jonah Birenbaum. We'll see you next time.